Welcome to my channel. The topic of today's video is obsessive thoughts and how to get rid of them. Most people who suffer from anxiety disorders have certain thoughts that won't leave them alone. These thoughts spin around in their head like a broken record, which only increases their overall anxiety and worsens their well-being. As a rule, these thoughts are of the following nature. For example, the fear of harming yourself or others. For instance, let's say you're in the kitchen, you pick up a knife to cut something, and immediately an image pops into your head as if you're using that knife to hurt someone or stabbing yourself. In other words, such thoughts fill you with fear and horror. That is, you don't understand why you're thinking about this, even though the thought is unfounded. You don't want to do it and you have no intention of doing it. However, these thoughts keep spinning in your head, or for example, you're playing with a small child who keeps crying and starts to get on your nerves. You vividly imagine that you kicked him and he suddenly flew more than 5 meters away from you. So this terrifying image appears and you're afraid that, God forbid, you might have harmed him in some way. Or for example, you're hanging a chandelier. Yes, and then as soon as you see that hook, thoughts immediately pop up like, what if I take a rope and hang myself from this hook? Will it even hold my weight? So you have these kinds of thoughts too. You don't want them, but they keep spinning in your head and scare you because you can't stop them. They keep spinning around in your head all the time. There are also thoughts, for example, about the fear of getting infected with something. That is, a fear of germs, all sorts of dirt, whether it's outside or somewhere else. For example, I used to be very afraid to go into a clinic or a hospital. To open a door handle, I would do this. I would pull my sleeve over my hand and open it like that because I was afraid that all sorts of sick people touch it and that something could be transmitted. That's a good example. Watch the movie The Aviator with DiCaprio. In that film, it's really intense. He has a severe fear of contamination and he keeps washing his hands an unknown number of times a day, and even to the point of scrubbing until his hands bled. There are also thoughts, for example, about superstitions, like luck and bad luck. You looked closely into the reflection of the mirror and saw that it was completely shattered and broken. That's it, you're doomed. The whole day will be ruined. Nothing will work out. A black cat crosses your path. Same thing. So it's this unhealthy attitude towards these things. In reality, there's nothing scary about it, but these thoughts keep spinning and spinning. They won't leave you alone. And eventually, you even start looking for proof of them. So I stumbled here, fell down, and here I broke something, because somewhere I saw that my mirror was broken. There are also thoughts about God, about religious topics. That is about how whenever you happen to do something, or say something that goes directly against the teachings of the Holy Bible, and it might feel to you personally that this is very bad. It feels very bad, completely unchristian in nature, and so on. And this scares you, you feel like some kind of punishment will follow you. In the end, you'll feel bad, you'll get sick, and eventually die. So these thoughts also keep spinning in your head. There are also obsessive thoughts of a sexual nature. For example, thoughts that seem inappropriate or frightening to even think about. It's scary to tell anyone about them. But yes, there are thoughts like, for example, that you are out on the street raping someone. These thoughts also keep spinning around and again, don't let you rest and only increase your overall anxiety. There are also thoughts, for example, a painful fixation on symmetry. That is, all the shoes must be lined up perfectly, even sorted by color, clothes must hang evenly, and all the books must be perfectly aligned. If God forbid something is out of place somewhere, that's it, you feel stressed, you feel bad. It seems to you that your whole life has been turned upside down. You will be plagued by troubles, and so on. Just a small example. If you've watched Agatha Christie's Poirot, he had a similar thought all the time. For instance, whether his barber cut his hair evenly, right? And until he checks it with a ruler and makes sure it's straight, he can't think about anything else. There, when they brought him boiled eggs, he would look at them with a knife, measure them to make sure they were all proportional. Once, they brought him asymmetrical eggs, and that was it. He got stressed out, freaked out. If his books weren't arranged just right, that would set him off too. This is also a vivid example. Obsessive thoughts can manifest like this. For instance, you leave the house and forget something. Say, you forgot your Xanax pill. Then that's it. Total panic. I'll have panic attacks. I won't be able to move around anywhere normally. Fear, what should I do? Run back for the pills and so on. Or say you forgot your water, right? I won't be able to drink water. I'll start feeling bad and then I won't have anything to take my pill with. That's a problem too. Forgot your phone. God forbid something happens, like your heart, a heart attack, a stroke, I'll collapse. I won't have time to call anyone. I'll die. Didn't turn off the gas? didn't turn off the electrical appliances, you check the gas, the lights, whether the iron is on, and so on, 50 times a day. And as a rule, thoughts like these make a person take actions aimed at preventing an anxiety-inducing situation. That is, he will check 10 times whether he took his pills with him, check whether the gas is turned off or not, take a bottle or two of water with him, put all the knives away on a high shelf just in case, so God forbid no one gets stabbed or so that no one accidentally stabs themselves. And all these actions, these rituals as such, give the person some relief, though only temporary. Relief from the situation that is causing so much anxiety, at least for a while. Obsessive thoughts also tend to intensify during periods of psychological trauma for the person, or when their body is weakened. If a person is unwell, these thoughts can become significantly stronger. Now let's move on to how to get rid of these thoughts, and whether it's even possible when it comes to treating obsessions. There are many theories, but the most effective method is considered to be cognitive behavioral therapy. A complete cure for obsessive thoughts is highly unlikely. That's why, when I see ads online saying things like, "I will rid you of obsessive thoughts in just a couple of weeks," I just find it laughable. A complete recovery from obsessive thoughts is very rare, especially in teenagers and children. So, let's get to the treatment itself. The first thing you need to do is to give up alcohol and drugs. That's a definite must, and I think there's no need to explain why. Next, you'll need to use a specific behavioral technique when these obsessive thoughts occur. The behavioral technique for treating obsessive thoughts is almost the same as for treating panic attacks. What does that mean? It means that when you have an obsessive thought, for example, you pick up a knife and it seems to you, "I'm going to stab myself or someone else, hurt everyone," and so on. What happens then? You are afraid of this thought. It appeared you didn't want it. In other words, it came up on its own, keeps spinning in your head and scares you. You don't want it, and here you try to block it. That is, you think, "No, I shouldn't go any further, I shouldn't hurt anyone," and you try to stop all of this. As a rule, it doesn't work. It's the same as with a panic attack. As soon as you don't want it, you're afraid of it, you try to block it, which is beyond your control, you end up having a panic attack, and it's the same with obsessive thoughts. But if at that moment, you allow yourself to let the story play out to the end, to finish the scenario here. And dunia sao. Play it out to the end. Take it in your mind. I'm not saying to actually kill someone, but take whoever it is and mentally run the whole story through to the end, as you imagine it. You stab someone, you go and hang yourself. Any frightening thought that comes to your mind, let the story play out to the end. Finish this scenario completely. So you've stabbed everyone, then you went and hanged yourself. If the thought keeps spinning in your head, run through it again. Play it out to the end. Don't try to block it here. By no means should you think, "If I imagine this, I'll actually go and stab someone for real." That will never happen. No one has ever done that. People who suffer from anxiety disorders, who are afraid of these thoughts, will never actually do it. So don't be afraid. Play this scenario out to the end and see how your overall anxiety level decreases. The main thing is to do this every time you have thoughts of this kind. For example, you come up to a bus stop and a car speeds by right in front of you. You might have a thought like, "What if I got hit right now, broke all my bones, became disabled?" Or maybe you imagine lying there in blood, everyone laughing, or on the contrary, no one helping, or the ambulance arriving soon. All these thoughts keep swirling around in your head, turning into a mess. That's what overwhelms your mind. You're just afraid of it, trying to block it out. Don't block it. Keep unraveling it. Try to imagine the entire scenario all the way through. I have been hit, yes, and I am lying there completely broken. So continue playing the scene out until the very end. Replay it over and over in your head, and if that is still not enough, repeat the process once more. If you use this specific technique on a regular basis, every single time you have intrusive thoughts like this, you will see how these thoughts will gradually start to fade away. I will go even further and say this. When I was personally going through my own difficult experience of trying to overcome these overwhelming obsessions, I absolutely drove everyone around me completely crazy. I constantly pestered and annoyed people who did not suffer from these obsessions themselves. I was always asking every single person for reassurance and validation. Like, a car drove by really close, almost hit us, me and a friend. I asked him, "Listen, did you just have a thought like, bam, you got hit, got all broken up?" He goes, "What?" So he didn't understand the question, asked again, "What?" I repeated the question again. He goes, "Oh, well, yeah, I did." I say, listen, and at that moment, what were you thinking? He goes, oh, leave me alone. Why are you messing with my head? I said, well, please just answer the question. He goes, well, what, that I'd just die and that's it? What's there to think about? And he walked away. So I've asked this question to literally dozens of people. Everyone gives the same answer. Look at what happens. A person who doesn't suffer from obsessive thoughts also experiences this thought in their head. But it lasts just a split second. He got hit, his bones were broken, he died. That's it. A healthy person, let's say in quotes, someone without obsessive thoughts, goes through the same thing but only for a split second. He doesn't wind himself up. Do you see what I mean? What matters to us is this scenario, how it breaks us. That's what torments us. That's what obsession is about. All people, absolutely everyone, have the same kinds of thoughts during certain situations. So, a person who doesn't suffer from obsessions also has these thoughts in their head. The same thing, almost exactly the same, but in a much shorter version. The car drove by, hit him, he died. As he said, a person who doesn't suffer from obsessions doesn't even notice this thought. He plays out the scenario in a second. Bam, hit, dead. But not us. We keep replaying the moment of death and so on. We block it, jump back, and circle around it again. Later on, when you've already learned to use this technique during situations when you have an obsessive thought, just learn to play out the scenario to the end and do it quickly, in a second. Almost like someone who doesn't suffer from obsessions. But again, you won't become exactly like him. And don't listen to anyone who tells you that you'll just walk around carefree. No, you'll always have a trace of it left here. That is, you still won't be able to do it automatically, like a person who doesn't have the disorder, automatically. To just live through this situation in the moment like that. It won't work. Your past experience will still remain here. And that's why, even if you don't spin out the dangerous scenario, you'll still think about the fact that you used to think that way. That's the problem. Because you remembered it right here. You see? Well, you can't delete a memory, erase it. It's impossible. That's why you kept thinking about it. And so, when you have another traumatic situation in your mind, you won't have the same fear now. It won't be as obsessive, but you'll still think, damn, I used to think that way. Meaning you'll still think about it a little, so you won't be the same as someone without these disorders after all. This is just the kind of personality that has already formed. By applying this behavioral technique, your attitude toward this obsession will change. You won't keep replaying this scenario in your head anymore, and you won't be thrown into panic, heat, cold, or fear because of all this. That is, you'll still run the scenario through your mind, but each time it will get shorter and shorter. So friends, the most important thing is to use the technique and be prepared for ongoing work on yourself, because if you just run through the scenario 2 or 3 times, it won't go away instantly. You need to do this consistently. The point of fighting obsession is to allow it. Here, you need to play out that scary thought to the end. And accordingly, the amount of time that thought stays in your head will decrease. Well, that's about it. The thought will remain, but what's important is that your attitude toward it will change. But the thought will still be there anyway. You can't just throw thoughts out of your head. This is all the more true, especially when you consider the heavy emotional baggage of past experiences, deep distress, and, let us say, the persistent sense of anxiety that you carry with you. The obsessive thought is eventually reduced to an absolute minimum. That is to say, the fact that these intrusive thoughts will arise throughout your life, this is something that simply will no longer occur. There's nothing scary about it. By applying this behavioral technique, these thoughts will no longer be a problem for you. You won't be any different from anyone else. It's just that for them, this thought is unconscious, they don't realize it. But you are aware of it. You will still be aware of it anyway. And that's why, when you see online claims like, I'll get rid of your obsessive thoughts in a couple of weeks, it's complete nonsense, because it's simply impossible to teach a person not to be aware of their own thoughts. It's just utter nonsense. You will be aware of it, while another person won't be. They'll have it a bit easier. You use a technique, and that's the only difference. Believe me, it won't make any difference for your future life. It won't play any negative role. Everything will be fine. Everything will be great. You just need to work on it. So friends, keep practicing, use the technique, and your obsessive thoughts will go away, right here. You'll free up so much space from this constant mess, from all those unnecessary scary scenarios in your head. Believe me, when things get lighter up here, it becomes so much easier to see something positive in life. I'm telling you this as someone who has been through it all. There will simply be more positivity in your life. 80%, not just 5%. So I want to wish the very best of luck to each and every one of you. Goodbye for now and take care.